Hi, I'm John Hart, and welcome back to Mr. America Hart. So I'm back here today, and one of the questions that has been asked of me before is, have I heard of or have I done or used on clients 100 rep sets? And this is something that a training technique that goes back probably before the time I'm going to mention. I'm sure one of you guys is going to say so. But I know from my experience that in the 90s and the late 80s, I can remember at that time a few of the top amateurs using a technique called 100 rep sets. And what the idea was you would take a weight, not a heavy weight, obviously, and not one that you would only be able to get 10 reps with, obviously. But you're going to take a weight that you're going to knock out 100 reps with. And the idea was it would be so shocking to your system. It would be so intense that it would somehow stimulate growth. And on the surface, it doesn't really sound like it could or should. Because, you're using a light weight. So how much damage could be done, right? So even myself, I remember thinking, this is not a big deal, right? And so the idea was that you wanted to be able to go ahead and knock out a decent set, somewhere upwards of 30 or 40 reps. And then when you failed, you stopped, you shook everything out, you shook your muscles out, took a few breaths, knocked out as many reps as you could again, maybe even take 15 seconds, 20 seconds, knock out another 5, 10, 15 repetitions, and keep on going. Depending on the exercise, it seems like it would be pretty freaking intense if we're talking about something like your thighs, for example. But the example that I had seen quite often was one wherein people were using it for their biceps or for smaller muscle groups. So I'll tell you the truth. I stumbled on it one time, okay? I was a trainer at Gold's Gym in Venice for a long time, the mecca of bodybuilding. And as such, I'd wait on my clients every once in a while. So as I'm waiting on a client one day, I had not trained my calves that day as part of my workout, and I was supposed to earlier that morning. So I went ahead and I said, well, I'm over here by the standing calf machine. I'm eyeballing the thing next to me, and I go, she's not even going to be here for another 20 minutes or so. Let me go ahead and knock out some calves, right? And I figure I'll get it done because I had not gotten it done earlier. Well, the fact was I didn't feel like lifting anything heavy at that point of the day. So I went ahead and I said, let me plug up 120 pounds on this stack. It was one of those selectorized stacks. And it went all the way to 300 pounds. So I put it at 120. It was like 350, something like that. I put it at 120, and I jumped on that standing calf machine. And I start doing calf raises. And I got about 40, 42 reps, somewhere in that zone. And I just decided that I wasn't going to let go of the machine. I was going to hold on to that machine the entire time until I got up to 100 reps. I would take a few breaths and then jump back on, shake my feet out, jump back on, and get it going and go for another, 5, 10 reps, however many I could get. And now, for those of you, that aren't familiar with any of my videos, I've shot videos on calves and calf exercises before, and my favorite exercise is donkey calf raises, and I do standing calf raises and seated calf raises on occasion as well, and tibias. But standing calf raise, pretty much a standard for most of the last 3.5 or 4 decades. So I jump on the thing, and I do them in really good form. Feet straight, I drive up on the big ball of my big toe, and when I come down, my knees are pretty much straight. I do not unlock them. I do not, turn it into a little squat out of the bottom. I don't cheat reps. I don't bounce reps. I do nice, smooth calf raises. So those 40 or 42 were pretty smooth. So I knock them out, and I step off, shake my feet out while I'm holding onto the machine. I count to 10, and I jump back on there, and I knock out another, 8 repetitions or so. And I keep that cycle going where I'm not letting go of the machine, but now I'm at 50 reps. So I got another 50 to go. I'm hitting failure at least 10 times in this process, maybe 15 times, because as the set goes on, it's one long, long set, or that's what I call it. Before some of you are going to go ahead in the comments section, you're going to call this, something like 15 sets. I know you are. So call it whatever you want. But in my world, this is one long, drawn-out set with breaks in between of only 10 seconds. I jump back on the thing the second time. Instead of getting 8 repetitions, I'm down to like 6. So I'm not able, with the same amount of rest, I'm not able to get another 8 repetitions. So this is going to be a long, drawn-out process, right? Well, I do. I make it all the way to 100 reps. Near the end, all I was able to do was sets of 2, or breaks of 2 reps, maybe 3 reps, and then I'd have to step off because I couldn't do anymore. So I was hitting failure literally 15, maybe even more times in the course of this one long drawn-out workout of standing calf raises. It's probably the best thing to call it, a workout of standing calf raises. I knock out the entire thing, and I notice, man, I have a gorging pump in my calves. And I have pretty good calves, and so they pump up real nice. I'm looking down at the things, and whew, man, they look huge. And I get done with my set at the end of the whole thing, and I shrug my shoulders, like, pretty good. I felt like a sense of accomplishment. I knocked out 100 reps. I didn't intend on doing this 100 rep set. It just got in my head. So I did it. Whew, let me tell you. At the end of that workout, I shrugged my shoulders, like, nice pump. And I go about my business. Client shows up. I train the client. Maybe I had 1 or 2 more clients that afternoon. And I go ahead and I eventually make it home. Well, that night, boys and girls, let me tell you something. Okay? Look, I had a girlfriend at the time. I'm a Christian man right now, right? So back in the day, this is before I was BC, before Christ. I had a girlfriend way back in the day, and in the middle of that night, that very first night, she heard me wake up and go, whoa, boy. Why? Because I felt some rumbling going on down below my knees, in my calves. There was something going on down there. I'm talking changes. There was, vibrations, twitching, weird things that I had never felt before. It was intense. So I wake up the next day. She tells me she heard me wake up in the middle of the night and go, whoa, boy. I really didn't remember that, but I guess I was dreaming about pain. And so I wake up, I go about my day on day 2. They're getting sore now, all of a sudden, on day 2. They're swollen, too. I noticed that. I like that a lot, that they had swollen up nice and big. Go through my day, and they're getting a little bit more sore by the hour on day 2. I go through the whole day, and that night, sure enough, we go to bed, and that night I wake up, and sweet Jesus, I was in such pain. I went to stand up, and I was up on my toes because my heels would not go down to the ground. My gastroc, the big thick part of my calf, was so swollen and sore and contracted that I could not stand up and have my heel hit the floor. I had to have myself on my toes at first, and then slowly, ever so slowly, drop my heels down because it felt like I was going to cause more damage to my calves. So it was serious. Obviously, it caused serious damage. Well, so much so that was night number 2, right? Or 3. Night 2, but the 3rd day. I woke up that day, and each time I woke up that day on the 3rd day, and my toes were pointing in the bed. When I finally woke up, I figured I made myself fall asleep, but eventually I wake up and my toes are pointing in the bed and my calves are fully contracted. I went to stand up and they wouldn't. I couldn't get it done. I had to cancel the first couple clients that day. I had to have the girlfriend massage out the calves, do the best that we could to loosen them up. And then I made my way to work to train people all day. And don't you know, I was shuffling my feet across the floor because I couldn't walk normally. So even when I went to go to get to my truck, which I had parked across the street from our apartment, getting across the street with oncoming traffic was a big, big deal because I could not walk normally and I was in pain. So this is just day 3. Let me tell you. Day 4, 5, and 6. Wow, I'll never forget all the days of my life. Man. Yes, I woke up again, laying down in that bed with my toes pointing. I had to have the girlfriend tape my feet back around the back of my knee so that my foot would be bent back in a slightly stretched position. I had to have her do that, taping my foot so that my toes would be flexed up towards my face as I laid on my back and slept all night long. The reason I did that is because by the time I'd wake up, those toes would be pointing, my calves would be contracted, and it would take a half an hour for me to slowly get my feet to start operating right and to get my heel to hit the floor. It was horrible. They were swollen, massive. I mean, I like that part. Did I say that already? I really like that part. They were really swollen. So it was cool. And then I go and I'm showing my buddies the size of my calves, right? Because they were crazy. So I'm shuffling around meanwhile at work for days. We're going on days, 4, 5, and 6 at that point. Each night was an adventure. I could hardly use my feet right. I had no black and blues. I didn't tear anything. I just did major damage to that muscle tissue. And they were so swollen that my feet wouldn't operate properly. The pain in my calves was deep, like I've never had before or since. And 6 days had gone by, 7 days, they were still as sore. But around about day 7 was when I could start stretching. It took a full week. I couldn't stretch again because my calves wouldn't let me. They hurt that much. My entire life was my calves for a solid week. How do you like that? So that's what 100 reps did to me. By the end of that week, I could start to stretch my calves. I gently would stretch them all day long to try and get them to ease up. And around about day 10, I got to tell you, I was this close from taking myself to a doctor because, and I could take a lot, man. I really can. When it comes to working out, being sore, those things, they don't bother me. And I'm not one to go and pop Advil or things like that just because a muscle's sore, because it's tight, or that kind of pain like I'm describing. But when it was serious, as in I didn't have the function in my calves anymore and my feet, it didn't work properly. That's when it became concerning. Round about day 9 or 10, after stretching for 3 days straight, day and night, that soreness started to go away. And then something really interesting happened. That swelling, that really nice, big, puffy swell that I had in the gastroc all around, right below my knee, made me look like I grew a solid inch in my calves. That swelling dropped down to my ankles, and I had cankles. I had swollen ankles. All that swelling started to drop down slowly down to my ankles. And my calves were starting to shrink. So I had not trained them, had not done anything for 10 days or so. Right around day 11, when I saw that swelling drop down to my ankles, I figured it's probably smart of me to go through the motions. And yes, I went right back to the exercise that bit me, that standing calf machine, and I started to pump out some light sets right around day 11, 12. Just some light sets, moving my feet up and down, trying to recover function, but also getting blood to flow through there and get my ankles to stop being so swollen from that fluid dropping down. So at the end of that all, it took a solid 14, 15 days before the swelling had reduced in my ankles. And I knew I was almost, I always talk about this in all my videos. When you train a muscle, you cause a hole of energy in your subsystems. That hole must fill back in, and then you grow. That's the process. Train, you've created a hole. Recover, that's the next few days after training, and then grow. Training and recovery precede growth. So I knew that once the swelling was gone, and the soreness was gone, and that general fatigue that I had in my calves and my feet which was just unbelievable. That took all the way to day 15 or so. I knew to give it a few more days, even, just to give my calves a chance to do what I demanded them to do. Hopefully, they would have grown. And yeah, they did. Minutely, they did. I got compliments on my calves quite a bit at the time. And, in my world, any growth was worth it at the time. Looking back, that boy was nuts in the head. But no, seriously, you got to be willing to try these things. And you got to be willing to go nuts on these things at times just to see what happens, because it may be the key for you. For me, it was exciting, and I could say I did it. The after effects weren't exciting, weren't fun, but they did grow. My calves grew, visibly grew. I had a new layer of muscle right there. And that was exciting. That, to me, was the payoff for all that effort, and then the effort in recovering and the pain that was associated with it. I didn't train them again for 22 days after that one workout, standing calf workout that lasted for 100 reps. 22 days later, I was back to actually training my calves, doing a real set with intensity on my calves without feeling like I was going to damage them, feeling like they were fully recovered and overcompensated. So the 100 reps, it took that long for me to recover from it. A lot of you guys out there and girls who have done this technique years ago, you might be laughing at me right now. You might be laughing saying, hey, I used to do that, once a week on a certain body part. Hey, no big deal, right? Like this. Well, maybe for you it was that way. For me, I have a really good connection with my calves, and those calves really got a big hit. And, I'm natural, so my recovery was not, the supernatural, right? Those who use the steroid or the, growth hormone or any other drugs, bodybuilding drugs, that recovery is going to happen a lot faster. So in my case, it was just normal recovery, and it took that long. So 22 days later, I was back to it, smashing away, doing any other technique than 100 reps, because I haven't even done it since on my calves. I've had other people do it. They've loved it. They never got quite that effect like I got, which makes me think, man, were they really being serious, or did they use enough weight on there? Right? So, or maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was just me. But it hit me really hard. So I've never been back to it for any body part. It was wild. So 100 rep sets. Do I recommend it? Obviously, I've used it on some body parts. For some people, especially I have some clients that over the years who had smallish calves, and it was one of the techniques that we've used semi-regularly to get their calves to beef up. And I train an actor right now who does have that situation, and he's growing some calves, and that's one of the techniques that we use. So I warned him ahead of time. He was ready to go no matter what. So remember, you got to be a little bit willing to go there in your head to get that extra growth, right? So 100 rep sets, my assessment of it, yes, worth trying on just about any body part. And, don't be afraid of using some weight. Don't be afraid of failing at 40 or 50 reps and then going in 5 rep or 10 rep increments or 3 rep increments all the way up to 100. See what kind of effect you get from it. That's up to you, of course. Use wisdom. Use wisdom. And remember my technique about taping the feet if you do use it on your calves, and wake up in the middle of the night with those toes pointing like that. So that's it for today. From my heart to you, I thought this was a fun story to share and also discuss a technique that was pretty popular back in the 80s and 90s. Give it a shot for yourself. And hit me down below with your comments. Love to hear if you ever tried the technique out, or if you ever heard of anybody who did, or if you're about to. Go ahead. Let us know how you do with it all. It'll be kind of fun to see and hear your experiences. That's it for today. Hey, off to my left, if you're liking these videos, that is the subscribe button for my channel. It's going to pop up right next to my head right now. See it? So hit that subscribe button So the channel, YouTube will alert you when I have new videos pop up. And then down below, you see that thumbs up button way down below over there? Won't you hit that before you go? If you're liking these videos, that really helps out with the YouTube algorithm. And that's it for today. From my heart to you, John Hart.